America, where everyone has a voice, but too many fail to speak. Too many don't know the foundation of our nation, have never read the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, or the Articles of Confederation, and fail to end up in a voting booth. It's time for change. Welcome to the Voice of Young America with Justin Austin, a platform for young America to voice their ideals and have meaningful dialogue on politics, economics, and social issues. Connect at thevoyatampabay.weebly.com. Now, the host of the Voice of Young America, Justin Austin.
Welcome to the Voice of Young America. I'm your star host, Justin Austin. Let's get right into it. I feel our country is at a fork. We're approaching this fork in the road. And what it reminds me of is Abraham Lincoln and the Civil War. And I'm going to take you back to the 1800s. And the reason so is that you had the Union that was already formed and, had the states behind it. And then you had the Confederacy who was trying to break off. And was it really a value situation? When you look at it, that slavery was abolished in the North, and in the South, they didn't want to abolish it. Was that really a values question? And if you see that once the war was over and people integrated the North and the South, that it wasn't really so much a values question. It was so much more of an economic situation. The economic strength of the South was slavery. And for Lincoln to do what he did, he took presidential prerogative, and people felt like he overstepped his bounds. The way the Constitution is formed, it's a breathing document, but when you look at it, it gives some powers to statesmanship, to that person who is in that position to make those decisions, sometimes to go a little bit broader. And Lincoln knew that what he was doing was new, in the sense of it was new to this system, new to this Constitution, new to this form of government in America. But he felt in his heart, in his character, and he felt that the people supported him because he got reelected. And that gave him more motivation to take that prerogative. He saw that the values of the country were being shattered by allowing this opposition to continue. And this wasn't a foreign state. The Confederacy wasn't a foreign state. And that was one of the things they had to view it as well. But it was a part of the Union. And he wanted to pull that part back in and not let it be cut off and separate this strong union that was called America. Who is our Abraham Lincoln? Right now, we're approaching that fork in the road where you have constitutionalism that's being threatened by the slavery of the mind. And what I mean by the slavery of the mind is that people have been captured and taken hold of when it comes to what these rights are that we get to enjoy. When you look at the Constitution says life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That is the God-given rights. And government was formed to secure those rights. Without government, those rights aren't secure. Every man has them, but they're not protected. So government is created among men to protect those God-given rights. And what we're seeing today is that I don't know if you want to call it people are adding on to those rights, but it's almost going in reverse. If history shows us so much, history shows us that too much liberty can lead to anarchy, and anarchy will lead to despotism. That's the way this thing works. And if you look at times past, even going beyond Mr. Lincoln in his time, you go back to Cicero, you go back to Aristotle, you go back to Plato, you go back to Socrates. When these guys, John Locke, Hobbes, when these guys talk about what's the best form of government, this is what the founders had pulled from. They pulled from these old philosophers, and a lot of the old philosophers felt that a benign dictatorship, which is one leader who has the best heart for the country should lead. But power corrupts. Ultimate power ultimately corrupts. So the benign dictatorship is not an option. But then some said a few should rule, and the few should be the aristocracy. And the reason they said that was because they felt you had to be a cultured person. You had to be a well-rounded, cultured person to know how to lead. And they felt like the aristocracy was the only cultured people that were in a position to lead. And for that time, it made sense up into a certain degree because the people weren't cultured. The people didn't read and study because they didn't have time to. They spent all their time working. And when they finished working in the fields or whatever they were doing, they just wanted to relax. So not many of them spent their time elevating their mind, elevating their pursuits to take office and be able to lead men. And then you had this idea of a republic where democracy reigned and people were integrated into their leadership. And that's what we have today. But what is that? Where is that leading us when you have this slavery of the mind, when people don't read books, but they are just being led by this thing called the television? And that we'll talk about that more. But this fork in the road says we either go towards constitutionalism or we go towards ultimate liberty, that people should have whatever. People should be able to do whatever. And this is in so many disregards. This is not just politically, but this is in so many regards. And the pursuit of life, the rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, what does that actually mean? We have to think about those three things to actually recognize what this country is. Because that was the whole premise of starting this country was to ascertain and have secure. Well, I'm sorry, take that back. We already have these rights. These are God-given. When you were born, you have these rights, so you don't have to ascertain them. But government was formed to protect them among the people. We want more freedoms, but then we want the government to ensure them. So in essence, we want beyond those three things, and we want the government to actually start giving us rights. And that's where it gets real tricky, where we are either protecting those rights or we're having the government actually give us more rights. And that's where the statesmanship and the constitutionalism comes in. The interesting part is the Constitution is sovereign. It's the laws. What they did with the American system was, instead of having your rights protected by a king or by aristocracy, these rights are protected by what they call the law. They're protected by the Constitution. And man has the opportunity to change these things, but they have to do it in agreement and at such a level. But what we're asking for is that the government actually not only protect the God-given rights, but actually issue more rights for us. But it doesn't really work that way. We're starting to lean towards statesmanship. We're starting to go beyond life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and we want more. And it's good to a certain extent to want more, but everything has to be in moderation. This fork in the road of constitutionalism and statesmanship, this is a big fork, because we either hold dear to those values that came in the Constitution, where life is meaning fetuses. That's a protection of life too. That's a right that once that consummation is made and that baby starts to grow, period, it is actually endowed with inalienable rights. That's a protection of life. Just like you don't want somebody to come into your house and take your life, take your property. It shouldn't be done to a fetus. It shouldn't be done to a full-grown fetus. It should be going to a full-born man. And that's a protection of life. We're losing out on that particular value, that right, that it's inalienable. Liberty. Freedom to what? Freedom to choose the food you eat. Freedom to love the person you want to love. Freedom to enjoy the fruits of your labor. What does that mean to you? What does liberty, freedom actually mean to you? And realize that to get that security of freedom, of life, of the pursuit of happiness, you have to actually give up a little piece of that too. You don't get it completely, because now you are a part of society where we actually have to share. So we give up a little bit, but that secures more. Just like you give God 10% and you get to keep the 90, but that 10% goes to God. Well, that 10% of your right, that's 10% of your life to a certain degree, that 10% of your pursuit of happiness goes to the protection of that 90%. The pursuit of happiness, what does that mean? 1 Corinthians 13 says, if you have all these things but don't have love, it means nothing. And it says it in so many ways, and it tells you what love is. But if you have life and you have freedom, but you don't have happiness, which happiness to me really is peace, then life and liberty don't really mean much, right? Because people who have life and freedom in America still commit suicide. So life and freedom only mean so much based on that pursuit of happiness, based on that pursuit of peace. And what do you determine as happiness for you? What do you determine as peace for yourself? We are losing, and that's the only way to put it. We're losing because we're losing sight. The definition of decadence is the loss of an object. We're becoming decadent in our values. We're losing the object. We're becoming decadent when it comes to the Constitution because we're losing that object. If we don't pull people back like Abraham Lincoln did from the brink of secession, from values, from ethics, from family, from love, from being each other's keeper, to representatives actually being the voice of their people, their constituency, we have to pull them back. And the only way we pull them back is to remind them of the first principle. The first principle is when you were born as a fetus, once you are created as a fetus, you have been bestowed with inalienable rights by the creator of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And government was formed to secure those rights for you. So you give up 10% to protect the 90% that you have. But are we really protecting that 90%? We're worried about actually creating new rights. We don't need any more rights, people. We have it all. But the biggest thing is the pursuit of happiness. Because life and liberty don't mean much if you're not happy and not peaceful. And the reason I think that our political system is unhappy and unpeaceful, because it lacks the values that hold us dear. We don't have a system of values, not even as much as we like to believe it. We're losing out on that. We don't believe our politicians, our law enforcement, we don't believe that they're ethical, which I think a lot of them are. I think the bad apples are starting to overshadow the others. But this fork in the road of constitutionalism and statesmanship, values and ultimate liberty, we have to choose. Who's our Abraham Lincoln? This is the voice of young America. This is a movement about informing people and empowering them that they have rights and they have the power to activate those rights in their life. But that's only if they stick to values, because everything else leads to destruction. Thank you for listening in. We're about to cut to a commercial, pay our sponsors, but just hang on with us. This conversation we're having today is about keeping America really strong. Thank you for listening.
You're listening to the Voice of Young America with Justin Austin. Watch what happens on the Voice of Young America YouTube channel. The Voice of Young America on AM 860. The Answer.
I'm Justin Austin, host of The Voice of Young America. When it comes to complete auto repair and fast service, check out the pros at Auto Lens Center, 1308 East Bush Boulevard in Tampa, providing professional quality work on all American-made and foreign car models. Great pricing on complete auto repair services, oil changes, and brakes. Auto Lens Center at 1308 East Bush Boulevard, where experience and good service go a long way. Call 813-764-7891. That's 813-764-7891. Auto Land Center.
The Voice of Young America relies on committed Americans like you to stand with us. If you're frustrated with the lack of real information being delivered to the next generation, then support Justin's efforts. Connect on social media, thevoyatampabay.weebly.com. Email thevoyatampabay@gmail.com. The Voice of Young America, to inform with truth and broadcast collectively and respectively the diverse ideals of young America. Finding skilled and unskilled tradesmen can be a problem, whether it's temporary or long-term. Rose Employment Solutions handles all of your workers' comp needs while responsibly solving your staffing problems. You make the call, they do it all. 813-644-5037. And for the quality tradesmen in search of career growth, full-time hours, and multiple pay options, call Rose Employment Solutions, 813-644-5037. Learn more at rose-emp.com or just stop by their office, 1020 West Bush Boulevard in Tampa. Welcome back to the Voice of Young America with Justin Austin. Connect with Justin by email, thevoyatampabay@gmail.com. Welcome back to the Voice of Young America. I'm your star host, Justin Austin. I'd like to give a shout out to our sponsor, Rose Employment Solutions. You make the call, they do it all. Folks, quality labor, quality service. Reach out to them, 1020 West Bush Boulevard, Tampa, Florida, 33612. Now back to our program. I want to continue on talking about values. And this is our economic section. So we think about our values in economics. And to me, I think people have lost sight of the value of capitalism. Capitalism, when I think about it, I think about Adam Smith in The Wealth of Nations. And he talks about the division of labor, which has made us way more efficient. Back then, farmers or blacksmiths would have to do more than that. They would have to, people specialized to a certain degree, but at the same time, you still had to cover other areas of your life. You know what I mean? And then when you break it down within each profession, there were multiple tasks to be done in each profession. It's not just one thing. You're just not beating the stick, beating things in the fire as a iron mason, or you're not just plowing the fields with one particular plant or something. It's so many different things that go into it. Dropping the seed, watering the seed, all these things. So Adam Smith, he looked at what was going on economically, and he came up with these ideas. And of course, he borrowed some from other people, and he was ingenious in others. And the division of labor made this efficiency. It was all about efficiency. Instead of having one person doing 10 jobs, you have one person doing one job, another person doing another job. This made things more efficient, and you were able to produce a greater amount of product. He talks about profits and what you should be doing with the profits, and how the market is made by demand and supply. And he took it to a level where it was so clear and concise that it was effective. And people grabbed onto the idea, and it changed the way people started to do business. It changed the ethos of business also. If you think about the fact that we have railroads from coast to coast, and think about the efficiency that would be needed, and they weren't pretty efficient at the time. They had a lot of hiccups, but the division of labor is what made that possible. In America or in the world, capitalism is alive. Capitalism is still alive. And I mean, the thing about China's still big on capitalism to a certain degree. They just have it under the umbrella of socialism. They have some really, really great ideas that come out of the mainland over there. But when we look at capitalism, what it really means,
It means just greater production, more of a balance. And to apply to the everyday American, your job is possible because of that, because of the specification that came with professions, that expansion. Oh, so let's break it down. So instead of having one guy doing 1,000 things, you have one person doing one thing. And so, boom, that means more jobs are needed, but that means the outcome is the production is greater. So therefore, when they went from having 6 guys doing 1,000 things themselves to having 25 guys, and they broke up the labor, that means that they started becoming more efficient. So when they made more money from that profit, they were able to build a bigger factory. So they were able to hire more people. And that's the whole process. It goes back into itself into a cycle. Hire more people because the production is greater and you're making more money. You want to expand and expand and expand. It's a cycle. So they're making more money. That means they're hiring more people. More people have money in their pocket. That money goes into the economy. It cycles itself. Capitalism isn't bad. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, that's if you're interested in the equality of opportunity. I think we've moved to the equality of condition. And if we look at our school system, they are pushing out a product. And the reason capitalism or entrepreneurship will die is because when you push out a product, just one particular product of human being, of human thought, then you can't expect new ideas to come from that type of breeding. What we're breeding in our schools spills over to what we're breeding in the economy, because these are the future thinkers. These are the future buyers. These are the future owners. These are the future managers that are coming up through grade school. And then the human thought that is being developed spills over into the workplace and affects the economy. We want that 17-year-old kid to come up with IKEA. We want that 21-year-old kid who came up with WhatsApp, or 19, or however they were, sold the company for, I think, $17 billion to Facebook. We want to keep that going. This is what causes the globe to actually grow on so many different levels and make China close to America in the sense of a phone call, a sense of an internet connection. And why would we want to kill that? Because the human thought when it comes to economics now is not what have I created? It's what I got. People automatically jump over what I created to look at what I got. And if I don't have what the next man has, then something's wrong with the system. Adam Smith came up with this brilliant idea where there was a cycle of business. There's a cycle in the market. Now, of course, government is necessary to protect anyone who's trying to manipulate that market or do bad things in the market, however you want to put it. But the market itself is a true being, and if this system, just like with the system of the Constitution and the Republic and our democracy that we have today, these things have to run off values. The whole principle of a free market system, the whole principle of people governing themselves, the underlying premise of it all is that people will have good character. That's the reason why you set these systems. That's why they're set up. Now you have the government to secure that, because the hearts of men can be evil. It's broken down. I think Cicero broke it down in 2. He says that there's the human persona and the individual persona. The human persona is things that we share together within a society or civilization. And then you have the individual persona, which is that selfishness to preserve your own life. When we look at it economically, capitalism is in respect to that human persona. It's based off that human persona in the sense that people will do the right thing. And that if you're doing the right thing within this cycle, the cycle will continue to go. But why do they talk about bubbles? You have cycles and you have bubbles. The housing market. In the 1990s, Bill Clinton stated that every American should have a home. If you go back to the 1930s, I believe that Roosevelt said it was the right, people had the right to live a certain way. These things have influenced the human thought. And what have they done? What have they done? Roosevelt told the American people that they deserve a certain condition of living, not in the sense of they should have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. No. He said you deserve more than that. And that's that statesmanship. When you look at the housing market, and then the beginning of it was that statesmanship. When Bill Clinton didn't say you have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, people feel like they already had that. So how can you tell people that they have the right to what they already have when they were born? So they wanted to give you more. So they said to you, hey, you have the right to have a home. You don't. You don't have the right to live a certain condition. You have the right to have the opportunity to get a home. You have the right to have the opportunity to have a certain condition of living. But I digress. Anytime in the system, in the market, where people have started acting shadily on a large scale, there's a bubble. When they talk about pyramid schemes, that's a bubble. When they talk about just scams and scandals, that's a bubble. What all those things represent? It represents evil character, bad intentions, bad character. Anytime that there's a bubble, that is usually fueled by greed, which is one of the 7 deadly sins. Usually that's what it is. 1908, 1927. You look at 1987. You look at 2001. You look, was it 2000 or 2001? That bubble. Do you look at the bubble that was in 2007? All of those were by greed. The tech bubble was greed because they started making every company was some kind of tech company. They were changing their names when they were making bottled water. They changed their name to Bottle Tech or something because they wanted the greed that came with the name. People wanted the money in the system. The economy was booming off of inflated pricing and inflated valuations of companies because these people were greedy. 7 deadly sin. One of the 7 deadly sins. When you look at the housing market, everybody deserves a home. So what did they do? They set up a system where they were encouraged to give loans. Well, then the banks and Wall Street and the potential homeowners all got greedy. Anytime our system has a bubble in the economic system, look for sin. Point blank period. You want to call it evilness, you want to call it bad behavior, you want to call it sin. The system is set up to work and work within itself. The market is healthy, not because of the ups and downs. That's not a problem. But the bubbles, anytime you see a bubble in the economic market, you can look for bad behavior. And the political system, the way the political system was set up and the political government was set up in America, if we are virtuous people, it will sustain itself. If we are virtuous people, it will sustain itself. Anytime there's an uprising or anything like that, any clash, it's usually because people aren't being virtuous. I may sound like I'm being so simple, but I'm here to talk about first principles. Capitalism isn't bad. The sins that creep in to men cause capitalism to look bad because they have the access to do bad things. So do you cut off access or do you actually help people become better? I don't know how to put it. I don't know the complete remedy besides focusing on values. I can't get away from that. First principles. There's nothing wrong with our economic system. It doesn't produce equality of condition. It produces equality of opportunity. Not the same degree of opportunity, not the same type of opportunity, but you actually have opportunity. And that's all you're supposed to be given. Every man was born equal in the sense of having certain inalienable rights, but every man wasn't born equal when it comes to work ethic. Every man wasn't born equal when it comes to luck. That's just the way that's the way of the world. That has nothing to do with rich or poor. We have to get back to the values in our economic system. It's nothing wrong with this beautiful thing called capitalism. It's something wrong with the hearts of men. And government was created to secure that opportunity that comes in our economic system. And how do they secure that? They look for the evil. That's their job, is to actually look for evil, stomp it out, whether it be enforcement of values and laws, or whether it's to create new laws to actually block out evil. But that's basically all it is. I was told that politics is the application of ethics to the problems of a society or a country. That's beautiful to me. I really, if you think about the job of politicians or the government in general, whether it's economically, politically, is to apply ethical solutions to the problems of the country, because the problems arise when ethics aren't being displayed or applied. This is the voice of young America, people. We're talking about values and first principles. That's what we got to get back to. And we'll get back to you after our sponsors.
You're listening to the voice of young America with Justin Austin. Connect with Justin at thevoyatampabay.weebly.com. The voice of young America on AM 860. The Answer.
I'm Justin Austin, host of The Voice of Young America. When it comes to complete auto repair and fast service, check out the pros at Autoland Center, 1308 East Bush Boulevard in Tampa, providing professional quality work on all American-made and foreign car models. Great pricing on complete auto repair services, oil changes, and brakes. Autoland Center at 1308 East Bush Boulevard, where experience and good service go a long way. Call 813-764-7891. That's 813-764-7891. Autoland Center.
The voice of young America relies on committed Americans like you to stand with us. If you're frustrated with the lack of real information being delivered to the next generation, then support Justin's efforts. Connect on social media, thevoyatampabay.weebly.com. Email thevoyatampabay@gmail.com. The voice of young America. To inform with truth and broadcast collectively and respectively the diverse ideals of young America.
Finding skilled and unskilled tradesmen can be a problem, whether it's temporary or long-term. Rose Employment Solutions handles all of your workers' comp needs while responsibly solving your staffing problems. You make the call, they do it all. 813-644-5037. And for the quality tradesmen in search of career growth, full-time hours, and multiple pay options, call Rose Employment Solutions, 813-644-5037. Learn more at rose-emp.com or just stop by their office, 1020 West Bush Boulevard in Tampa.
Welcome back to the voice of young America with Justin Austin. Connect with Justin by phone. Call 813-516-6851. 813-516-6851.
Welcome back to the Voice of Young America. I'm your star host, Justin Austin. Want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Autoland Center, 1308 West Bush Boulevard. Go by, see them. Great work, great customer service. Check out their website, autolandcenter.weebly.com. Now, moving into our society piece, our last section, I want to have this conversation with you because you guys can't see me, and so I'm just kind of buzzing into your ear. But this is something I want you to think about. This should be required reading, and you might think this is kind of odd, but listen to it, right? The Willie Lynch letter. The Willie Lynch letter was one of the most magnificent pieces ever written in men's history. Willie Lynch told the slave masters, he said to them, stop beating your merchandise, right? Stop beating your products, stop beating your laborers, that you're damaging your own property. And he said, you don't have to touch them. You have to physically, not physically, but mentally, psychologically control them. So he told them, you go into the slave shack, right? And or you can take your Uncle Tom with you, right? Go in there with the Uncle Tom. And, you know, after a certain point, some masters would be their slaves, but the Uncle Tom usually would do a lot of the work. And you beat almost the whole 85% of the life out of the father. The father of that or the leader. If you got a bunch of slaves, all you got to do is just take the leader. But you beat him, and you beat him in front of the family, in front of the rest of the group, and you take away that power that he has, because you show that he can be stripped of his power. So you can't put your faith in him. Psychologically, you take away their strengths. Fathers are the strengths. The male patriarch of the group is the strength. He's not all of the strength, but he's such a large part. So you minimize his power in the eyes of his family or his followers. And once you do that, they will be afraid to trust in him, and they'll have to look somewhere else. And when people do not have a leader, they can be easily led. With that said, I can go at this in so many ways. So let me start with this, right? Who's the leader of America, right? Do we actually look to the leader of America like we used to do with FDR or Reagan or Kennedy? We've lost that sense of leadership for our president. People don't respect the office anymore. It's not that Kennedy didn't have people that were against him, and he didn't have opposition. Every president had opposition. It was always a battle of the minds. But at the end of the day, thank you, Mr. President, that actually really meant something. It was out of respect. We don't have that anymore. Our president doesn't lead us psychologically, doesn't lead us spiritually. That's been stripped. I'm not going to tell you who is the person behind that. That's not my job. That's for you to decide. But I just want to show you what's literally going on. So when it comes to the issues of the day, he's been stripped. That position has been stripped of its power by several men that have been in that position. Now, look at the family. Look at the church. So many pastors have went down in flames for sex scandals and pornography and molestation, like in the Catholic Church and the other denominations within Christianity. They've been brought down to people don't respect the pulpit anymore. They don't respect the shepherd. Look at the home. The man is not there in so many of our homes. And the ones who are there, a lot of them are being led by their wives. They're being either removed from the home, or if they're in the home, they're being emasculated. Now, I say all that to say, then who's the slave master? I'll let you decide. But who's the Uncle Tom? That's the conversation I want to have today. Who's the Uncle Tom in the Willie Lynch psychological application? The media. The media is the Uncle Tom today. Look at what's going on with guns. I can't stress this enough, and I want you guys to get the picture. Willie Lynch said that you don't physically control them, you mentally control them. So you remove the father out of the home, you remove the president, you remove the respect of the president, you remove the respect of the father, you remove the respect of the pastor. These are all three leaders of the country, the president, the leader of the community, the pastor, the leader of the home, the father. So who is leading the people? No one leads people greater than mass media. They are the Uncle Toms for whoever the slave master you want to call them. But they are the Uncle Toms. They are the manipulators, right? Just really think about it. And I'm not saying for good or bad, you get to choose, because I'm a piece of the media. Somebody told me the other day that, Justin, you are media. I kind of just never saw myself, even though I have the voice of young America, I never saw myself as media. But I'm the media, folks. So if you didn't know, now we all know. Look at what they're doing with the guns, right? Where do you get your leadership from? People get their leadership from music, right? People idolize musicians. Well, listen to the radio. What are they telling you? Listen to, when you turn on whether it's 94.1 in Tampa here, or whether it's Pandora, whether who these leaders in the music world, celebrities, these musicians, these are leaders. In the basketball game or in the sports arena, these people are called leaders. We aren't looking to politicians anymore as leaders. We're not looking to the pastor as the leader. We're not looking to the father as the leader. We're looking at ball players, musicians, radio personalities, TV personalities, all these other people who don't have your best interest in heart at all. But what messages are they sharing with you? And in the rap game, F this, F that, this chick that, this chick that. Not every rapper, especially not the Christian rappers, but in country music, Body Like a Back Road, right? How many of your kids are going around singing Body Like a Back Road by Sam Hunt? These are the people who are leading you. So when it comes to the mass media, how are they leading you, right? They put these 17-year-old, 16-year-old, 15-year-old kids on TV. Now, any parent worth their salt would know that what these kids are doing isn't going to change things, because as a parent, you should be forward thinking and you should know history. What did we talk about last week? How many shootings? Man, it's been so many shootings, but just to take the biggest ones, how many laws were actually changed after that? So you allowing your kids to go on TV, they're being moved by CNN. Your children aren't being led by you. None of these parents of these children that are on TV right now influence their children to go on TV. CNN influenced those kids to go on TV. HLN, Fox News, all of them influenced those kids to go on TV. And look how they speak to Marco Rubio and Senator Bill Nelson. Senator Rubio and Senator Nelson. Look how they spoke to him. They spoke to him with respect as a leader? No, they don't respect those guys. We are being manipulated in the same way Willie Lynch said manipulate them. You remove the patriarchs and then you feed them with information. You're being fed that Republicans are evil. You're being fed sex, drugs. You've been fed that the father, look at every TV show. Every TV show mostly has a father who's a goofball. If you are a strong man, you usually don't make it on the TV. You're being led psychologically to slaughter. These kids are being led psychologically to slaughter. First, because their parents aren't looked to as leaders, because they wouldn't let their kids go on CNN talk about guns like that. First of all, what does an emotional teen is going to influence in Washington? Because if you're an adult and a kid approaches you all worked up, what's the first thing you're supposed to do? You're supposed to calm them down, talk to them, help them see reality. You're not supposed to say, oh, you're mad? Hey, here's a really big microphone. Go scream. That's foolish. For Marco Rubio and Senator Bill Nelson and the sheriff to go in there to get slapped around by teenagers and liberal media, how can you be respected anymore? That was a foolish thing to do. I could barely stomach watching some of that. That's not leadership, going on TV and allowing teenagers to yell at you. That's not leadership. Leadership is putting forth legislation and telling people these are our values. These pieces of legislation are going to protect those values that we all care about. I know you're upset We need to handle this, and that. I totally agree. But what the real focus is we need to make America great again, spiritually, mentally. People are being enslaved by the television. They're being enslaved by the mass media. Dick's Sporting Goods. Tell me why Dick's Sporting Goods decided to stop selling AR-15s. So you're trying to tell me if that kid never shot up that school, they'll still be selling AR-15s? So, come on. We don't have a respectable, ethical, valuable society. You don't require it. You think it's about gun laws? Really? You really think it's about gun laws? You really think, no, it's about what they keep putting in front of you. If they keep putting 9/11 clips in front of you, what you're going to start talking about is terrorism. If they put gun clips in front of you, you're going to start talking about taking guns off to sleep. You are moving like sheep. You are being led like sheep. That's what counts. That's all that counts. You're being led like sheep. If they put it in front of you, you respond. They put bad pictures of Trump in front of you, you respond. They put old clips of the sex scandal from Bill Clinton, you respond to that. You respond to whatever they put on TV. They control your mind. Willie Lynch tried to apply that to the slaves. The mass media has applied that to the human being in America. You're sheep. You're being led like slaves. Populist government doesn't work. If the people get emotional and make laws based off that emotion, what do you think the country's going to look like? Guns aren't bad. Guns don't kill people. People kill people. Who's going to start saying that? Marco Rubio, he had the opportunity. Senator Bell Nelson had the opportunity to say it loud and proud. Guns don't kill people. People kill people. Let's make that totally clear. The spirit of these men are the ones that took the spirits of the other men. Now, we as government, we don't have control over people's spirits. We can't control that. What we can control is how much damage they can do. Let's be completely honest. We want to control how much damage they can do. That's what government's job is. So take out the bump stops, take out AR-15s. I'm totally cool with that. You know what? Take out the AR-15s, unless you can tell me there's a reason that every human being in America needs one. I'm okay. Everybody can have rifles and handguns. That's totally fine with me. Okay. But then what are you going to do about the real issue of kids start stabbing people or kids start using pipe bombs? Stop being foolish. Stop being led like a sheep, man. They're telling you it's a gun problem. I'm Justin Austin, the voice of Young America, and I'm telling you it's a spirit problem. It's a value problem. It's an ethical problem. That's what it is. Anybody starts talking differently is lying to you. Tell them I said, okay, if they start telling you it's a gun issue, tell them Jay Austin with the voice of Young America says it's a spirit issue, and you're lying to me. Let's talk about the spirit of man. Let's talk about American values. That's when you'll start seeing change. We have an amazing country. We won't have it for very long, people. I'm not here to scare you. But the lack of love, the lack of understanding of the Constitution, the lack of understanding of capitalism, the lack of being your brother's keeper, values that have made America great are being lost. Because you know what? Tell me, how do you get value from anything that's on television right now? What brings you values? Turn your TV off if you have to, bro. You're being led like sheep. Read the Willie Lynch letter and look at the mass media. This is Justin Austin, the voice of Young America.
You've been listening to The Voice of Young America with Justin Austin. The Voice of Young America relies on committed Americans like you to stand with us. If you're frustrated with the lack of real information being delivered to the next generation, then support Justin's efforts. Connect on social media, thevoyatampabay.weebly.com. Email thevoyatampabay@gmail.com. And be sure to join us next Saturday evening at 6 for the Voice of Young America here on AM 860. The Answer.